China Global Television Network.
Well, that civil war in South Sudan has displaced millions of people. Many seek shelter in camps run by aid organizations such as the United Nations or Human Rights Watch. But life in a camp for internally displaced people doesn't always mean freedom from violence. This week, the UN has had to relocate 3,500 people to another shelter in Juba after fighting broke out at the IDP camp where they were living. Astatal has more on that story.
Many of the internally displaced in South Sudan escaped to camps as fighting tears through their villages. Sporadic fighting within this camp led to more security concerns. The UN mission in South Sudan was able to negotiate an end to the fighting and evacuate 3,500 people to a new camp in Juba.
It was a big effort because they had to be moved very quickly. We believed that they were in danger where they were. And that meant everybody had to pull together. So they had humanitarians, the peacekeepers, all working together to put up tents, to locate the site, to liaise with the government, who were very cooperative, to get machinery in to build latrines and water points. A very successful operation done in a very short time.
Camps such as these are meant as a temporary solution as civilians suffer through the consequences of war. With a new peace deal in place, there is hope that people can return home.
Camps are terrible places for particularly families and bringing up children. So the more that we can move people voluntarily to their own places and set up again, the better. So we're working now to make sure that that momentum continues where it's possible for them to feel safe. And that is really the responsibility of the government ultimately.
Yeah, we hope peace will come. That's why we trust our leader. He's going to bring us here. We trust him about peace and about our nation. We're going to be good for the future time.
2.5 million people have been displaced during South Sudan's civil war. And with a peace deal in place, many are hoping they too can return home. Astatal, CGTN.
Staying with South Sudan, the UN Refugee Agency has started raising awareness about the peace agreement signed by the rival parties involved in the civil war. It involves a campaign that informs South Sudanese refugees in Eastern and Central Africa about the details of the agreement and its effect on their lives. As CGTN's Patrick Oyet reports, the first phase of the initiative is already underway in neighbouring Sudan.
The UNHCR's brought refugee representatives from Sudan, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Central African Republic to Khartoum. They have been meeting with mediators and negotiators involved in the peace process. The refugees shared their views, aspirations and expectations, and they have urged the parties to the conflict to find peace for the millions of South Sudanese people who, like themselves, are living outside their own country due to the 5-year civil war. The UN says the purpose of the event is to ensure negotiation teams keep South Sudanese refugees up to date on the content of the agreement and explain how it seeks to help the displaced. There are currently 2.5 million South Sudanese refugees living in East and Central Africa. The UN says for any peace process to succeed in South Sudan, the country's citizens should own the agreement and know its content. The peace process is ongoing in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum, with the parties now engaged in discussion on how the deal would be implemented. Patrick Oyet, CGTN, Juba, South Sudan.